But we're starting a new journey with this sort of podcasting. But and we're going to have a bright future, I predicted. But you know what doesn't have a bright future? E3. Because E3 was just canceled. I was figuring out how to work a transition into the gloom of E3 this whole time.
Honestly, do you even remember the last time E3 was a thing? Like, I think it's been so long that people kind of forgot, which is partly like a reason why it's not happening, you know? Like there's no hype or anyone really like talking about it anymore. And like I was talking to you about this in the beginning where it's like the big 3 like pulled out years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they started doing their whole like, oh, PlayStation, what is it, State of Play or whatever, right? And then like the Xbox show and the Nintendo Directs, like everyone has their own like show now, and they've made it to where it's like digital, right? It's not like actual conferences anymore, or at
Yeah.
least like events that you can go to. They might be having that again. I'm not too 100% sure on it, but the thing though is like E3 just kind of like lost, you know, what it was. Because I remember being excited for E3 back then. Like that was the place where all the cool stuff would be shown, you know?
Yeah.
Like where everybody would love to go. I even, not gonna lie, I even wanted to like, because I think at first it was like only like game like journalists or like people in the industry were like invited to those things,
Mm-hmm.
and then they made it to like accessible to the public. So I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
man, I wish I could go to like E3 one day.
I will tell you, just to give some cliff notes on the official thing, and I will tell you about the last time I was hyped for E3, which was over 10 years ago. But E3 2023, the Electronics Entertainment Expo, that's what E3 stands for, it's 3 E's as an acronym. 2023 has been canceled. It was due to return in Los Angeles in person for the first time since 2019, because we've had a pandemic. We're still going through it for those who want to pretend like we're not. It was set to return in person for the first time since 2019. It was scheduled for June 13th through the 16th, and it was supposed to be, it's a gaming as well as it's entertainment as well, though it's heavily focused on gaming, if you didn't know what E3 was. Because honestly, I think there's a lot of younger people, because if you came up through gaming in 2014 on, E3 has not really been a thing. So, for those who don't really care too much what E3 was, it was mostly a games trade show. And, you used to get good trailers for it. You used to get E3, the E3 trailer was a thing.
Yeah.
Was like the thing you look forward to. And I tell you, the last time I got really excited for E3 was 2009, the year before Mass Effect 2 launched, because there was the Mass Effect 2 E3 trailer, and they showed like gameplay from one of the missions. And when you're hyped for a game, you just watch that 7-minute video ad nauseum for months. But it's I think overall, I think E3 is one of those things. It's kind of like a Barnes and Nobles, right? Like brick and mortar bookstores. They're going away for different reasons, for one reason or another. And I think E3 is just a sign of the times, because video game hype is different.
Yeah, true.
What was the game? There was a game that just came out, and I forget the name, but it launched, and I think it's actually a pretty decent game, but people were kind of worried because it launched with almost like no gameplay trailer. It launched with you didn't get to see anything of it. It's Sons of the Forest. Sons of the Forest launched with what? I think it had an announcement trailer two and a half years ago or something like that. And then it just got delayed. And then it just dropped, in the middle of the night, basically. So I think game hype culture is different. And therefore E3 lost its purpose, because you look at PlayStation, whatever each company, like PlayStation has their own one, Xbox has their own one, Nintendo has their own one, and like PC even has their own one. Because didn't you suffer through basically a PC games version of E3 at one point or something like that?
Oh God, yeah, that was so totally not worth however long I spent like waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, it was totally not worth the Jump King sacrifice. Okay, I spent playing Jump King just so I could freaking wait for it, and then that shit happened, and I'm like, oh my god, why? I suffered twice, basically.
I
Oh.
remember we did a BB&J episode because I think what the Microsoft show was that
Yeah, it
same
was the
day, was it
Microsoft
not?
show. Yeah, yeah, it was the same day. It was like right before, or it was the one before it. Yeah.
Yeah, so and it was like we sat for the BB&J show through that. We recorded the BB&J show live watching that. And that was, fun to watch. It wasn't bad.
Mhm.
And then I had something to do, so I couldn't stay for the game or for the PC game. And I remember I checked in at one point during the middle of one of these trailers, and I just saw the look on your face, and it just was one of pain. But basically, that's the whole point, right? Like, we watched the
Yeah.
Xbox game thing, and it was so different because like it was just a roll of trailers pretty much, and
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
none of them looked interesting. If I'm being
Mhm.
completely honest with you, none of them really looked that interesting. And it's just so different because like I remember E3, you would get interviews with the developers, you would get IGN
Yes, the
articles, you
behind
would
the
get
scenes stuff. Yeah.
you would get all of this stuff that like it was more than just a trailer. And like, look, I understand these last 3 years there's a pandemic, right? So it's like things have to be a little different. I understand that, but you could still do, like how I mean, we've managed to have a conversation. I think
Yeah.
if you and I could manage it, I feel like industry studios can manage it. But it's
Mhm.
like you don't get journalists asking questions anymore. You get like,
Mhm.
I'm Microsoft man A with Reggie, whatever his name is, and it's like the stupidest questions. Like, well, tell us how you like to butter your toast, and it's like, like granted, IGN didn't ask like the hard hitting questions. It wasn't like they were sitting with Walter Cronkite, but they asked more. Like they didn't necessarily follow 100% the company line. They would ask
Yeah.
questions that they were actually interested in, and as the fans, you'd be like, "That's really good. I want to know that." Like you'd see an interview with the BioWare guys, and because like at the time there was two heads of the company, and like if you didn't watch the interview, you would get the article that summed up the interview. You got all of these things
Yeah.
that like fed into the hype of like game hype culture. Now it's just tune into Microsoft Direct, which is going to stream on this platform and on that platform and this other platform, and then it's going to be like 90 minutes, not even, if even that, of a bunch of trailers. And at one point, Todd Howard's going to come out and just hype up a game that's going to be broken, and then he's going to go back, and then Reggie's going to come out and hype up some other pay to win nonsense, and it's going to be another bunch of trailers, and that's it. And it's just like
Yeah.
it's so different because if you're excited for a particular game, you get a 2-minute trailer, and then that's it. You more stick with, I'm gonna follow this game's Twitter account or this game's Instagram account, or whatever individual social media, rather than a mass gathering where all the companies came that drew your attention. Now it's like,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna focus on one company or another, and that's what killed E3. I don't think it's coming back. I think we've seen the end of E3.
Yeah. Yeah, this might. Yeah, they might. It might just be just because like an email they sent. So this was verified by IGN. That it was an email that was sent by to the employees, and it was basically they're just stating simply did not gather the sustained interest necessary to execute in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of our industry. And I mean that's basically just letting you know like nobody was coming, or
Yeah,
like
yeah,
no one was gonna come, or either they just didn't have enough people to show up. And like I said, like the big three pulled out, and they've pulled out long like way
mm-hmm,
before. They were already doing their own thing, right? But the thing I think the thing with E3 that was cool back then, it was like that. I'm not saying they don't do it now, but it's very very like minimal to basically non-existent. Where you were talking about it earlier, where it's like I remember when they would showcase games, but they would
Mm-hmm.
actually showcase games. You know what I mean? Like, this is our game. I'm gonna tell you what this game is about. I'm gonna tell you how the game mechanics work. Developers would put in their, they're basically just telling you like, hey, this is what we've been working on, and all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
A recent one that I watched was, and this was, I can't remember what event it was for. It might have been PlayStation because I think it's a PlayStation exclusive. But the new Final Fantasy, they
Mm-hmm.
literally did that. They just showcased one not too long ago, where they showed their game like a cool trailer, right?
Yeah.
And then the developer is there playing the game, letting you know how it works and showing you how mechanics, what they've upgraded from past games, how it works differently. And like I feel like people love that,
Mm-hmm.
because you're basically showing people why you made this game, how passionate you are in the project, and you could tell that person was like, you look, this is like my baby, like this
Yeah.
is what I've been like, fixing up this whole time and shaping it. And so like E3 used to be that thing, and then now that everyone's just kind of like how you were saying, like everything's changed to the point where they just want to show you what's there and that's it. And it's like I feel like people don't really get hyped for anything anymore. You know what I mean?
No.
Because like one, it's like how many times in the past few years have we received games that are broken day one? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That is,
Mm-hmm.
that are released unfinished or need patches.
Yeah.
You know, or another one is how many games have been released that don't even have content that they promised they would have. We've suffered through a few of those. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's crazy that nowadays I feel like these companies are playing it safe. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
let's show them a trailer. Yeah, let's do rendered gameplay, whatever, right? Let's show them a trailer. That's what they want. They only want to see the game. That's it. And it's like no one really gets hyped for it as much anymore because like you're not even seeing why you made this game. You're not even giving us a
Mm-hmm.
little. And I'm not saying like sit there for like 3 hours and tell me every single detail. I'm
Yeah.
sure some people would enjoy that, but but what I mean is like at least just sprinkle with a little bit of like what you've been doing these past few years in the game and why we should get this game. It's like no
Exactly.
one tries to sell you the game anymore, or
No.
at least like explain it. It's just kind of like, look, this is what's here, and that's it.
It's like, when I said game hype culture has changed, you know, why you don't get hype for a game anymore. You get
Hmm.
hype for you don't get hype for the release of a game. You get
Yeah.
hype for the 2-3 months later patches. It's like,
Yeah.
because I've heard it plenty. It's like, you'll talk about
Hmm.
a game that's coming out, and you'll just hear, oh yeah, I'm really excited for that game, but I'm gonna wait.
Yep. Yep.
Let them fix whatever they need to fix. It's not even like,
Hmm.
and it's not even like a game that's been released and is broken. It's a game that's like not even released yet. It's people are already
Yeah.
pricing in. It's gonna be broken or something's gonna not work. I'll wait, and it's like,
Oh my gosh. Dude, like you remember back when you get so hyped for a game, you buy that day one because
dude.
it's like, "Oh my god, we've been waiting for so long." Like I remember Mass Effect 3. I was
Mm-hmm.
waiting for that game for so like I was like, "Oh my god, it's going to happen. It's going to release. It's going to release." And then you go buy it day 1 and it's a complete game.
Yep.
Like
I
not
was at the
anymore.
midnight.
Now, yeah, like oh, look at that. Like yeah, midnight releases. That's not a thing anymore.
Mm-mm.
Like no, like that's the thing. That's is, and I know that times change and everything, but I feel like they've changed because like there's not that trust anymore. Like people
Exactly.
don't really have that trust in these releases. And I know that technology changes, things become harder. I'm not a developer. I'm sure developers and people in the industry works freaking super hard, something that I could never do, right?
Yeah.
But like what I mean is like there's still developers out there who take their time. They still
That's
take their time and they try to push and they try to like we want to release it when it's good, and it's just like all of that impacts what we're talking about right now. Like all of that
mm-hmm.
is what impacts it. And it's sad because I know so many people worked on this. Like I remember when I think it was announced back in what, like 2020 maybe, when they were like in talks of like relaunching E3.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's gonna be awesome because it's like I know it was like a whole year that they didn't do anything, and
Mm-hmm.
then nothing happened. 2021, 2022 they started to talk about it again, and then they were like, towards the end of 2022 they're like, oh, we're back, June, it's gonna be awesome, and
Yeah.
then this happened. Like
I remember it's talking of anecdotally about like getting hype for games. Obviously, I was there at the midnight release. My cousin playfully called me Launchpad because I was always at these launches. And now that I live in New York City and parking is atrocious, I kind of am happy that midnight releases aren't a thing. Like I'm kind of happy games have gone digital in that respect because you preload it, and then it's like midnight.
Yeah,
you just
definitely.
you play it because you don't have to go circling my block for parking at 1 a.m. But
yeah,
I remember for Saints Row 2, where I was, they weren't doing a midnight release because they didn't get sufficient pre-orders or whatever it was. So, I was like, damn, because I was really excited for Saints Row 2 because I'm a huge Saints Row fan. I remember being in the parking lot of GameStop at 8 a.m. in my car with my coffee and my bagel and reading reading the newspaper, whatever it was, waiting the 2 hours. Like I just couldn't wait. I couldn't sit at home until 10 a.m. Like I had to be the first customer through the door to pick up my Saints Row and run home. And that was the thing. When you got home, like games, I remember in the PS4, like I have an Xbox Series S, so it's like all digital. I don't know how it is like on a PS5. I assume it's still the same way.
I think they have two versions, like the digital. It's kind of like the X and the S.
Yeah.
The digital and then the copy one, like the disc one.
So like I remember when I had my PS4, I don't remember this being a thing in PS3, but like you'd put the game in and it would have to install on your PS4. And it's
I remember that.
It would have to install and then it would have to download the day one patch. Like, look, I understand, right? Like I'm the curmudgeonly old man sometimes, like I still read a newspaper when I can. I still old school it when I can, but I understand like technology makes life easier, right? Like technology makes it so that people can read instead of getting a newspaper delivered to their door or going out to the store or whatever, they read the news on their phone. In either they read it or they get video format news. Like I understand technology has made that easier, so therefore the newspaper sort of goes away. Gaming, and I understand there's all sorts of, you can't just delay a game indefinitely because there's a lot of money going into these things. You need to get a return on investment at some point. But I think the problem is that too many companies rush games out the door. And you got a culture of gaming now where it's just like, get it out the door, we'll fix it later. And now it's worn the hype off of games. And what ends up happening is, these trade shows end up becoming less and less important. And, companies like the big three as they're known, just say, you know what, why are we going to spend money doing all of this PR because marketing costs money when we can just from our home studio rack a bunch of trailers, hire two people that are going to say whatever we want them to say and just put it out, just live stream it, and it's a whole combination of things. But no, I don't think the name E3 might survive, as something else. Like the company that's behind it. I think ReedPop is one of the companies that works with them. They're the ones they put on Comic-Cons and stuff. I think E3, and don't quote me on that, it's just me thinking. But I think E3 itself will continue maybe a digital format. I don't know. I don't think it'll be dead forever, but I think the E3 as we knew it is over. And I tell you, everybody who's listening to this right now, if you don't remember or if you don't know what E3 was like, go back and find, your favorite PS3 era game, even PS2, but it was mostly PS3 era was like the height of it. Go back and search up one of those games and E3. Like, for example, Mass Effect 2 E3. And you will see a whole bunch of articles and trailers, and then try to imagine what it was like when the internet was much different than it is now, because now there's like 900 different gaming websites, and anybody with a keyboard can upload an article. But go back, try to imagine when IGN was really your only source for gaming news on the web, and that's what you had, and you looked forward to it. It was the summer, it was like June, you were like, that's what you look forward to. And It
Yep.
was a thing, and it's a little sad. I'm not gonna lie. Like I stopped being excited for E3 over 14 years ago, but it's sad to me to think that that's going away, and I fully do believe it
Yeah.
is going away because it was such a important part of that era of my gaming life.
Hmm. Yeah, like I mean, like there's I feel like there's definitely like still some room left for E3, just not in the capacity that it was. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like it's definitely I don't think it'll ever go back to how it used to be, but it would be nice if they continued that behind the scenes segments they used to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is a way like cuz the thing is for me I think they need to adapt to this new style, right? Of uh of showcasing or like or events because if they're able to let's say okay no one participates right but if they
Mm-hmm.
had like a team that would interview each of these like developers or companies or whatever and get in and be able to showcase their game well not even showcase but like get more information right because
Yeah.
the thing that we don't get a lot unless you're reading articles is game information or
Mm-hmm.
like for most people, you just read what's on the game website or like let's say for example Steam. You read
No.
what the game is
God.
about on the Steam bio, right? Like that's it.
Yeah.
That's like almost all we get, right? Until there's like, later down the road Twitter upload about, "Oh, look, this is development." So like I feel like that would be a way to kind of like still keep that alive. Like I said, it's not gonna be enough like how it used to be, but we don't get that a lot anymore. The
Yeah.
whole like behind the scenes. That would be a good segment to do. But you're right. I don't. I mean, it could be. This could actually be the end. Now I know that they were saying that basically I mean, I think this is PR at this point, right? Where it's like, we're trying to see like if they could do like maybe other events in the future, but uh, I mean, that's really all you can say after something like this happens.
It's
It's
like
like,
when
oh,
you
we're
break up and it's like, oh, it's a mutual decision. No, you got dumped.
yeah, yeah, and like on the and then this is from an email from to The Verge, um, and also stating that you're basically right that the Repop will be continue to try to work together for future E3 events
Mm.
in the next few years. But it's like I don't know, like I mean, you just kind of I mean, I understand what they're trying to do is like to be hopeful, right? Anyone
Yeah.
would want to do that, yeah, after something like this is announced. But I mean, is it really like? It's not a guarantee,
No.
It's definitely
Yeah.
not. It's basically saying that we'll try to do something like this in the future, but who knows?
I think what they should, and again, I don't know what is possible due to like I don't know what restrictions Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have on their development teams or whatever, but you know, focus less on sort of like the game trailers and all, and just developers, like developer interviews, developer conversations, maybe studio tours, like you were saying, and all of that sort of stuff, and have that be the focus of it. Maybe give each, because that was another thing. Each of the big three used to compete. Like who won the day, who won.
Yeah, yeah,
And obviously that's not, they don't want that. The big three don't want to compete. They want their own stage, and they
hmm
can circle jerk
exactly.
themselves.
Now,
So
one thing, what I do remember real quick
hmm?
is I remember the one that's basically kind of been created. I don't remember when it started, but I do remember the last 2 years there's the Summer Game Fest, and that's
Mm,
basically like our mini E3. You know, like
yeah.
that was kind of like the little savior for the summer, where it's like all these everyone just announces their games, and then and that's a way that I forget his name. I think it's is it Jeff Keighley, right, or something like that,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the
yeah,
host.
yeah, yeah.
um, and I mean, I think they did a pretty good job. Like he does pretty good job with when he does the announcements, right? I mean, is it kind of cringe sometimes? Obviously, that's just kind of how like those things go, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
like that
acquired
they at
territory.
least like um I like that they just kind of like he's just kind of like, oh, like, hey, this is the new games, and I can't, like, he's excited, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when he presents these things, and it's not like a, oh, this is the game, and
Yeah.
then continue to the next thing. You know, he's like, wow, like that's gonna be coming, blah blah blah. You know, like I'm excited. I used to play this and this, so it really brings me back. Like, you know what I mean? So like it hypes you up a little bit in that way, and that's what E3 used to have. Like you used to have those events. Now there has been E3s where it was like, oof, like I don't know who
Oh
chose
yeah.
this person to like host,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know,
They weren't all bangers. That's
exactly, yeah, yeah,
you had some stinkers in there. You had some, but no,
yeah.
but it's like I would say look at that. And the thing about Jeff Keighley is that like when you watch a Sony, like the Sony whatever they call it, Sony Connect, Sony Connect My Nuts, whatever it is, you those hosts, they can't. I mean, they can, but like they can't really get that excited because it's like their company shills, right? Like it doesn't, it
No.
doesn't count. Like when Todd Howard comes out, if he were to get all that excited and all of that, it's like, oh geez, it's like here's a corporate guy trying to be like, it's like that Microsoft Windows launch from 1995 where it shows like Bill Gates trying to dance and like all of those like, and it's like really bad.
Oh my god.
It's like the worst thing ever.
I've never seen that. I need to see that.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if they were dancing or having seizures, honestly, but
Oh my god.
it was like something like that. Like, you can't have the corporate or the company person get excited. You need to have,
Yeah, you have to have a face for that. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and it's like you can't hire somebody because they know, like, the people are not stupid. It's like you watch, obviously they hire a PR face. They don't always, I don't know, though the computer game might have been just random people because they look like they weren't comfortable in front of the camera. But you hire a PR face or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, of course they're going to be excited. They're getting a paycheck from this company.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
You give me a paycheck, I'll be excited for anything. Like, like there's a lot I'll do for a paycheck. And so it's like, you kind of just, you don't buy the hype. And I think E3 should look at other successful things if they want to continue, like PAX East. PAX East is still an in-person con-like event that people were excited to go to. South by Southwest is still something people like to go to. So like look at what they do. And now I don't know what PAX East is. I know it's like Entertainment Expo or something. I forget what.
Yeah, it's still basically like that. They have a bunch of gaming news, pop culture, stuff like that.
Yeah, so just look into things like that and try to crib off of that, or maybe call San Diego Comic-Con and be like, how can we merge events, or how can we get under your wing and have like E3 at Comic-Con or something, like figure out a way, because people love going to Comic-Con, so and it's usually around a similar time because San Diego Comic-Con's in July. E3 is typically in July, in June. So see if maybe call them up. Reed Pop, I know, does New York City Comic Con. So that's how if I was in charge, if I had to make any decisions over there, that's how I would do it.
Yeah, because I mean, you gotta you basically as time changes, like you can't really like, not all the time, like I know there's the whole like, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, but like at this point it is, so like you have to innovate broken. This wouldn't stop working, so like like you have to innovate, you have to find new roads, or to go down. And that's why I kind of like the whole Summer Game Fest, because it's like they know that there's these big companies out there, right? And they don't get all the big games to come out on the Summer Game Fest. But one of their main focuses are like the indie games. People love that. So that's the innovation. It's like, okay, we're going to show more indie games out there, for people to get excited for these, these developers, and see what they're working on. And sometimes some indie games will even go all the way and show you the behind the scenes of like why this was created, and they get like segments compared to like other games. So it's like there's just got to be a new way to like it's possible to survive. I mean, I think that it is possible to survive. There's so many different networks that have changed the way that they've done their work, right, and innovated and kind of adapted to what is now.
Yeah.
So there's a way to survive. It's just you can't keep trying to do the same thing anymore. You gotta try and change it up.
You either adapt or you don't survive. I mean,
Exactly.
that's just the way it is, and hopefully there is a brighter future ahead, and hopefully this isn't the end of E3.